Okay, hello and welcome everyone to this week's Evolutionaries Discuss Forum, where we're talking about ego and the solar plexus, and we're kind of hooking it into the topic of Donald Trump because obviously he's very much in the news at the moment. He's a very interesting manifestation at this stage in humanity. So I'm just going to introduce who's on the call. We've got Michael Day, our resident astrologer and coach to the stars. We have Valentine Palmer, who is a performance and presentation coach and a former actor. And we have Susan Kennard, who is a Harley psychotherapist and an energy healer and an expert on all things metaphysical. So Michael, if you want to do an opening alignment for us, just to get us into a center place, and then maybe just talk a bit about Donald Trump, because I know you've got his chart there.
Yes, very exciting. So today is about the solar plexus, the source of power. So right now, just feel into your solar plexus and feel all the impulses there you have. You know, maybe it's that urge to eat lunch. Maybe it's that desire to do great spiritual work in the world. All these different impulses just now resting in your solar plexus. Just feel that sort of gold energy in there, in your solar plexus. And feel how much power and beauty is in there to really transform the world. A beautiful place to be. And today we're talking about Donald Trump. And I just love looking at his chart because this is a man of destiny. You know, he's born with Sun conjunct North Node, which is kind of like this sense of, you know, he's born to be a powerful figure in the world. And he's a very polarizing energy. You know, people love him, some people hate him. Of course, as an astrologer, I'm in the middle. I'm just seeing what will be happening over the next 4 years. And on the first day that Mr. Trump takes office, he'll be 70 years and 7 months and 7 days old. 777, the number of Metatron. So there's a very high magical energy in the ascension of Donald Trump. And yeah, his chart is all about the will to power. And the will to power is the essence of the solar plexus. And you know, in the Western path, we love the ego because we're here to look at having an impact on the world. And there's a big nervousness about all that. But the ego is what makes things happen. Okay, and Donald Trump is very much in his solar plexus. You know, at times he can appear quite vulgar because he's so linked to his impulses and instincts. But actually, he's quite a genius. Don't forget, he's a businessman. And business people are experts at achieving power and getting results against the odds. Because Mr. Trump was, you know, forecast to lose quite heavily. In fact, he lost by 3 million votes, and he still won. Okay, that's the power of that sort of intensity. And Mr. Trump is a great advocate of positive thinking. He's read all those books many years ago, and look where it got him president of the biggest nation in the world, okay, in terms of power and money. And his whole chart is about power and wealth and money. So first of all, what I love is that he's born on a full moon, okay? We have here Gemini Sun, Sagittarius Moon. People born on a full moon are such drama queens, okay? They're here to create massive energy shifts around them. So full moon babies like him, hey, he's very much here to be the life and soul of the party. He's here to provoke people. This is not an easy character to be around, but massive, massive charisma, that full moon charisma in his chart.
Now, what I do with my clients when I'm getting people to perform in a more memorable, powerful, persuasive, acceptable fashion we start with the solar plexus because it's the seat of all power when it comes to communication. I know the chakra, of course, is important, but the thing is, I asked them, have you watched David Beckham taking one of his amazing curving ball penalties? Have you watched a weightlifter in the Olympics lifting a weight? And have you thought about what happens when you try to push the car to get it started? And everything we do, punching, kicking, lifting, pushing, whatever it is, these muscles that stretch from the bottom of the rib cage down to your pelvic girdle are what do most of the work. It's called the rectus abdominis, I believe, and it is some of the most powerful muscles in the body. So it's a very, very important part of everyone's body, but not everyone realizes. And when people get up to speak and say, hello, I'd like to talk to you all this morning about something very important, and we all go, wonder what's for lunch, because there's no power behind it, because they are not aware of the power of the solar plexus. And when I watch Trump, I think, how do you keep going vocally? Because it's all shouting all the time, all day. It's amazing. And I think, God, for a guy 70, you really are pushing it. You know, you must have a very powerful solar plexus.
What I want to say about the solar plexus and about ego is that when we're living in a connection to source, when we feel purely connected and we haven't got that feeling that we're doing it on our own, as you said, Rachel, and that we're kind of an individual in the world, that we are all interconnected, and especially that we have this connection to source, God, whatever we want to call it, our inner being, that we know we're not on our own, then we don't need to be in our ego. And what it's really about for me is it's all about love. So as you know that you're loved fully and unconditionally loved, then you feel that unconditional love within yourself. So with that unconditional love, there isn't really any judgment. So there isn't judgment of self and there isn't judgment of others. So no matter who's in the world, Trump or whoever's in the world, it doesn't really matter because you are connected to the main thing that you need to be here in this world, in this planet. So essentially your mission, you're able to carry out your mission, which is to serve others and to learn more about unconditional love. Then in that mission, you know that you are connected, so you're never on your own. So whoever plays out any role in the world, it doesn't really matter to you. It's not really a problem or a big deal because you know that you're not in fear.
When I was in Peru, I asked the shaman to define ego, and he said to me that ego is any time when we choose to play life small, which I thought was a really interesting definition, but it kind of ties into what Susan was saying about when we lose our connection to source and we try to do it solo, like all the power's coming from little, small, local us, we're far less powerful than when we're connected to source and we're essentially channeling infinite energy. And I know that you do a lot of work around power, Valentine. So just talk to us a bit about that when people are in that place of flow and connection. And then that must happen. It does happen in performance, doesn't it? When people get into that flow and they're able to manifest magic.
I always thought, irrespective of whether it's on stage or on screen, as a performer, that I went somewhere else, if you know what I mean, when you perform. And all actors, you know, who are worth the salt will tell you that the moment the camera turns, the moment they step out of the wings onto the stage and face the audience, not only are they someone else because maybe they're playing a character very different from themselves, but they actually go somewhere else. And only once has this happened, very early on in my career. I think it was the first show I was ever in the London Coliseum, which seats 3,000 people. And I only had one number. And I came on stage and I started to sing my big number at the age of 21 or whatever. And I was suddenly sitting in the gallery, watching myself. So I was sitting up there, seeing me on the stage, listening to me while I was on the stage singing, and I didn't dry up. I got through the whole thing. And afterwards I thought, what was that? You know? And I think it was to do with, where does an actor go when they are performing? Because it ceases to be that person that we know.
So Michael, talk to us a bit about when the solar plexus tips into that kind of negative ego, arrogance, and kind of goes out of control, because there is a kind of healthy solar plexus and a kind of more destructive aspect to that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can go either way. I mean, some people kind of starve themselves emotionally and materially. They have a very kind of weak solar plexus. Some people are full of energy, but they can misuse it, okay? So I think that's more the latter case with Mr. Trump. That may be the likely possibility. He has a very strong Leo rising, which is kind of very kind of grandiose energy. It's quite vain. He's definitely a very vain character. And that can be both quite fascinating and a bit repulsive at the same time. Also, he has here a lot of Jupiter and Neptune issues. So he can get very caught up with his own image, his own illusion. He's obsessed with his ratings and so on. So that becomes very dangerous when we look at, he has this Mars rising in his chart, which is the most difficult bit really of the whole thing, because the big fear of most people is that he'll take us to war with someone somewhere in the world, maybe China, who knows. But the Mars rising is that untamed masculine warrior energy. It needs to be civilized. It needs to be disciplined. It can go out of control. And also he has this Mars-Pluto in his 12th house. That means that his big fatal flaw is this issue about Julius Caesar, the fear of betrayal. You know, beware the Ides of March. His big fear is assassination, or his own party trying to bring him down, or the army deposing him halfway through his tenure in office. He's got a big fear of being stabbed in the back. So the flip side of ego is paranoia, you know, looking behind you, who's out to get you. So that make him quite nervous and quite jumpy. Okay, so Mr. Trump, great chart for power, for destiny, for being a leader in the world, but the Mars-Pluto 12th house says he's going to be quite nervous, quite paranoid, quite jumpy, will keep saying things like too soon, speaking too soon. As you know, as we know in politics, you have to bite your tongue the whole time and choose your words very carefully. And being Leo rising, he's very keen just to speak his mind way too soon. That's always a fatal flaw in politics.
That is the case, isn't it? That he is a master manifester, and I think we all have something to learn about that power of intention and the ability to vision something and then make it manifest in the material world. I mean, it's quite some feat to decide that you're going to become president of the United States and defeat all the odds and just keep so clear on that goal. Yeah.
I mean, even in the late 90s, he was talking about running for president, and that's been bubbling away, okay? It's about, you know, what do you do at the end of your business career? Well, how about become president? What a perfect achievement, you know, to add to all your towers and your billions. So I think ultimately, you know, he does hold quite a bit of shadow, and that's in his chart. But, you know, this is when we go into polarity. Now, for the light to emerge, you know, one person has to be seen perhaps, you know, in the shadow, in the dark. But, you know, Donald Trump is playing his part in destiny. You know, Sun conjunct Uranus, conjunct North Node. He's the great rebel, the great liberator. He's the dark magus. He's come to upset the apple cart, to drain the swamp. And it's quite fascinating because, you know, in kind of New Age circles that I mix in, some people totally love Trump, some people totally can't stand him. And now I've learned to be facing both ways, to be kind of PC in both directions. You can't afford to be upsetting people at these social events.
You're like the Roman god with the two heads facing in both directions.
Indeed. Well, that's how you survive in London. You have to really face in both directions at once, okay? Because, certainly Trump has hit a nerve, and he's here to be a catalyst for transformation. And he will change the world. He will totally change Europe, and China will be changing quite radically because of him. So I think it's good news, as long as he can restrain his Mars rising, which is, that slightly bellicose warrior in him. If that can be kind of constrained by Congress and by the Pentagon, then it should be a very abundant and lucrative presidency. Now, looking at the chart for 2020, I don't think that he will survive more than 4 years, because there's a lot of heavy stuff happening then. So maybe if he makes it 4 years, that would be enough for him to have made his mark on the world.
But look at what he's manifested. We can all manifest the same. And as we feel connected to Source, it's much easier to manifest and create whatever we choose in our world. So we don't have to come from fight. We don't have to come from jealousy or ego. We can come from a place of pure love.
If you were the coach of Donald Trump, Valentine, would you suggest he changed anything? Or do you think that expression of power, because I know that you do a lot of work around charm, and I think Donald Trump at times has had a charm bypass.
Yes.
So would you adapt his approach?
Yeah, because when you and I discussed charm before, the first thing I think of is, hello, Donald. I'd like you to think about, you are possibly the worst advertisement in the world for charm. Mao Zedong in his heyday was far more charming. To which he'd say, why do I need to be charming? That's interesting, because charm comes from inside. All right, I can help people to look more charming, to sound more charming, to approach people in a more charming way. But in the end, it's coming from inside. And it's like Donald was, when the magic fairy touched his cradle when he was born, she forgot to give charm as one of the gifts. I think there's no charm. And what is charm? What is charm? Charm is actually to do with caring and being interested in everyone you meet, wanting to help them have the best time, be the best, whatever it is. And he's kind of so turned in on himself with this whole ego thing that we were all talking about. Donald's obsessed with Donald and doesn't leave room for charm.
So actually, what you're saying really, Valentine, to put this into sort of metaphysical terminology, and I'll come to Susan on this and Mike, get Michael's input, because it's quite interesting. It's kind of a fusion of the solar plexus power chakra and the heart chakra, that when those two work in tandem, then you get a very powerful, charming results.
And what I feel, and my team, my guidance team tell me, is that we've got to run everything through the heart now. We've got to run everything through the heart. So how does it make us feel? How are we really responding to it? And when I work with people, I help people stand in their power. So they clear those bits of them that felt disconnected from Source or from God at whatever time, and they're major shocks that happen in their life where they decided that they will put up a wall, an emotional wall, and that emotional wall stops them from being in their power. So essentially, when we can actually release those walls that are around the heart, we can expand the heart chakra, the heart energy. We can feel much more deeply who we are. We can have compassion for ourselves and charm, of course. We can charm people because we feel so much more in touch with our heart center.
To put this back into the context of Donald Trump, do you think that we will see a softening of him through his presidency and into evolving into a more feminine, allowing a more feminine side to him to shine?
That would happen, wouldn't it? If he started to let go of those old belief systems that he needed to be in control, that he was just there, that Source had put him there, that he was absolutely shining the right for the mission, but he could do it from an open heart perspective rather than a perspective of power and control. I'd love to get my hands on him. I'd love to work with him, but essentially I just see him as a soul that's playing out a beautiful role for us so that we can look at how we feel about ourselves. And I just think what a gift he is.
So Michael, if you were appointed, you are coach to the stars, so if you got the call from Donald Trump and were called in to be his coach, what would your teachings be?
Clearly, as a coach, I'll have to take him through his chart and really see his whole life story as being like going for this moment, being 70 years, 7 months, 7 days, your first day in office, the most important job in the world. And it's your job to really show up, you know, as a powerful masculine energy, holding that light energy. And that will come over the next 4 years. But well, I want to stress that, you know, Source TV is about business, and Donald Trump is a great businessman. Okay, I just loved his programs. So, yeah, business people are very psychic. They've got a sense of the energy of the markets and how to make money and who to meet and how to achieve power. And the solar plexus is about power. And in the spiritual world, we're very nervous about what power might do to us. But Donald Trump has no fear of taking power. Now, others have some fear around that, but he's very determined to achieve the greatest power potential that is possible in one lifetime. So I want to say Donald Trump is a master psychic. The mark of a magus, the mark of a really powerful, magical personality is not to be bothered by being criticized, not to be frightened of the competition, to have no fear of going on that epic journey to victory. Now, maybe he's got some slight paranoia about being stabbed in the back. That might be his own fatal flaw. But here's a man to watch because he's showing us how we can be powerful in our lifetimes, okay? And you may love him or hate him, but here's a man who is truly psychic, a true magician, and his chart is full of magic.
Fantastic. I'm going to draw the call to a close there, but it's been really wonderful. So thank you all for your contributions, some really fascinating threads there. So thank you all so much for coming on, and have a wonderful day.
Thank
so
you.
Bye for now.